Run by Dawnaura Weebly, Part 9. It's not your fault, Gramps. I tried to reassure him. Please don't cry. No. His tear-filled face soon morphed into an unbearable-looking rage. I could have said no. I could have just said no. And risk her getting flogged? No. Gramps, you did the right thing, Dickie told him. I can't believe that wretched witch made me do that, Gramps shouted and slammed his fist hard into a nearby metal desk, which caused a large dent in the tabletop. We stood, silent, not sure what else we could do to help. Go take your break, Gramps said between gritted teeth, not bothering to face any one of us. But Bells tried to intercede. Go, Gramps interrupted her loudly. Heads hung low, we all walked slowly out of the boiler room and left Gramps to himself. I followed the crew down a few winding hallways to a large room filled with water spouts. The room was crowded, loud, and busy with people fighting over the hundreds of spouts surrounding the walls of the room. Hurry up, Z. Jay grabbed hold of my hand as the rest of the crew went on ahead of us. We need to get ourselves hydrated before we start up again. If you don't get some water in you, you might pass out from all the heat and sweating later. He led me towards one of the many spouts and turned the knob, letting the water pour out heavily. He cupped his hand under the spout and splashed the water all over his face. Ah, that's nice. He grinned, then scooped up some more and began guzzling it. Well, what are you waiting for? Get some, Z. Get as much as you can. I placed my hand under the water, and although it was only lukewarm, it felt like a winter wonderland in comparison to the room itself. I splashed the water all over my ash-ridden face. I'd never appreciated water as much as I did right then. Jay laughed. Feels good, right? Yes, I smiled. Go on, drink some. Hurry. Break's nearly over. He smiled back. As I went in to get another drink, kaboom! Boom! Boom! Sirens began blaring and red flashing lights began to blink rapidly. Many began to scream and started running in every direction. Jay grabbed hold of me right away and pressed him and I close to the wall so we wouldn't get trampled on amongst the panic. What's going on, Jay? I tried to yell over the noise. It sounded like a boiler explosion, he yelled back while still hanging on to me tightly. Boiler explosion? Does that happen often? I hollered back. No, not really, but it happens, he said. Attention, servants. Please return to your designated bunkers until further notice. Do not panic and return in an orderly and calm fashion. Orderly and calm, Jay scoffed. Like that's gonna happen. At least we got the rest of the day off, he grinned. How do you know? I said. What if they can control the explosion before the end of the day? If it's a boiler fire, trust me, we have the rest of the day off. It'll take the repair crew all day and maybe even part of tomorrow to fix that kind of mess, he responded. When the room cleared up, for the most part anyway, Jay and I headed back to the pod. There you are! I was darn near worried to death, Bells said to us. She ran over to us and gave each of us a tight hug. Where's Gramps? Jay said as he noticed he wasn't in the pod. Don't know, VTech said with a worried expression. I'm sure he's fine, AR said, as if he were not just trying to convince us, but himself as well. Well, knowing Gramps, he's probably just trying to help some unlucky buzzards who ended up near that mess, Dickie said. Did you see it? Jay asked him. Yep. It was a double boiler explosion in Boiler Room GI, Dickie replied. It was so bad it blew the room's door off and set the other 7 boilers on fire. It's the worst one I've seen yet. Gosh, Jay replied in shock. What caused it? I asked. Hard to say, but Usually it's caused by some idiot in the waste management sector who let some hazardous trash slip through the recycling. Only certain types of trash can be burned in the boilers like that. If they find out who did it, though, let's hope God has mercy on the poor sod, Dickie said. You know, you all act like you've been here a really long time, which is still something you've never answered before. How is it that you all know Jay? I asked. He and I are from the same wing of the children's sector. How is it possible that he knows any of you? They all looked at one another for a moment. Why don't we all sit down? Jay said. It's about time we answered some of her questions. They all sat down and faced me. Ask away, Jay said. Well, let's start with the question I just asked. How did you all meet? Do you remember that time I was sent away to the re-education center? Jay asked. Yes, I replied. Well, this is the re-education center, he said. What? You're kidding me. Children? They send children down here? I was floored. Yep, Jay said. And some never leave. The dysfunctional or irredeemable. That's us, Dickie finished for him. Wait a minute. So you're telling me that all of you have been here since you were children? That's horrendous, I spoke in unbelief. That's right, honey, Bells responded. How could they do such a thing? It's child labor. It's torture. It's evil. AR completed my sentence for me. But they tell everyone that you're sent to these wonderful re-education centers filled with counselors and oh, I can't believe this. Everything in this dreaded and no good place is a lie, I screamed. Now do you see why we're so desperate to get the truth out there? Jay asked solemnly. I suppose I do, I replied meekly. But that still gave you no right to inject me into your plan without my permission or knowledge, I added more sternly. We know that, darling. I swear to you, we're sorrier than you can imagine. It wasn't right what we did. We realize that now, and the boys and I are so sorry, Sweet Pea. I mean it from the bottom of my heart, and I know the boys do too. Right, boys? Bells looked over at the boys, and they nodded in agreement. If only you would have asked me, I might have... Well, let's start over then. Bells stopped me. Z, we need your help to reveal the truth to the entire population. They need to know how corrupt this gosh darn evil system is. We'd love it if you help us, and if... Her voice suddenly got choked up at the very thought of her next point. And if you don't want to risk all that danger, or give up that good life you got going for you, we'll find some way to fix the mess we put you in. No matter what you decide, we promise to understand and love you, no matter what. We promise. Yes, we promise. The boys all agreed. I thought back at what happened in the boiler room earlier that day. I thought about how pitiful that young man looked on the floor, and how the watchers screamed at him like he was no more than a mangy dog. I thought about how cruel she was to Gramps and me by attempting to pit us against one another and humiliating us simply for her own sick gratification. I thought about the back-breaking work and the long hours of the unbearable heat. Then, I imagined this was happening to a child. Being forced to endure that kind of life, day in and day out. How could I possibly walk away and live a normal life knowing all of this? How could I? The answer was simple. I couldn't. I'll help you. I finally responded to all of them who were waiting for my answer with bated breath. Just tell me what I need to do. Yeehaw, boys! I told you she wouldn't let us down, Bells said. The boys all cheered. I think AR might have even shed a tear or two. I knew you were too good to walk away, darling. I had faith in you. Bells squeezed me real tight. What's going on here? Gramps, Bells shouted. You're back. We were worried about you. Worried? You know better than that. I know how to take care of myself, he smiled. I just needed some time to cool off about what happened. By the way, Z, I'm really sorry. No, I stopped him. Don't say it. You had no choice, and I refuse to accept an apology you don't deserve to give. You're a real good person, Z. Gramps gave me a thankful grin. Guess what, Gramps? Bells was so excited she was bouncing around like a jackrabbit. What? He giggled. Z's gonna do it, Bells said excitedly. Do what? Gramps looked around at all of us, confused. She's gonna help us with our plan, VTech said back. Are you serious? Gramps' eyes lit up like the 4th of July. Really, Z? You are? Yes, I smiled. Oh, Z, I could just... Gramps ran over to me and scooped me up from the ground and gave me a big, strong, warm embrace. Before I knew it, the entire pod was hugging me too. If anyone were to randomly walk in, I'm sure it'd be quite the odd scene to stumble upon. All right, let me go, you goofs, you're suffocating me, I laughed. They finally let me go, their faces filled once again with hope and happiness. We have the rest of the day off, Jay said. This will allow us to get a lot done today. We should secure the pod and head down to the meeting place and start planning right now. I got a better idea, Bells said. Like what? Dickie asked. Oh, you'll see, she said with a mischievous smirk. Y'all secure the pod and then head down to the meeting spot. When you're finished, I should have everything ready by then.